Hello, everyone. I'm Sakshi Simrani, Faculty for Ethics at Vajiram and Ravi. Joining me today is All India Rank 438, Akash Kumar. Akash, thank you for joining us and many, many congratulations on this feat.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Akash, you're already serving as a district youth officer under the Ministry of Youth Affairs. Could you share a brief experience about that first?
Ma'am, I was recruited as a district youth officer under the My Bharat organization. Basically, UPSC last year launched its Pratibha Setu portal, under
Right.
which candidates who have reached till interview, they would be recruited into this. So it was on the basis of my 2023 interview. So on that basis, I was selected.
Okay. Before starting with your UPSC journey, I just want to know a little bit about your academic background and what was that final motivating factor that nudged you towards this mighty UPSC exam.
I have done my graduation and masters in political science. Graduation from DU and masters from JNU. And as far as the motivation is concerned, since my father is a Lekhwal, so I have always seen these activities at at uh, at a loose level, basically. I always wanted to become an IS officer. But the preparation I started only after my masters.
Okay. And so when you started, I know it's been a long and arduous journey for you as well. So if you could
Yes.
briefly take us through the journey of multiple attempts and what was the results and factors that were preventing you from getting into the final list, and what was how did you take that in terms of how did you motivate yourself to sit for yet another attempt to get into this final list finally this time?
So I think in this journey, it has been a roller coaster ride also. I made certain mistakes due to which it became a very long journey. So in my very first attempt, like everyone else, I also wanted to crack it in my very first attempt itself. But I fluked by 1 marks in my first prelims. And since I had a very decent, I would say, not above decent record in my academic career, so I could not digest it. How could I fail in prelims? And that was, I think, my major mistake because I did not work in my mains that time. And I think the results were out in June, and when December came, I could not even realize this. And that became a factor. Because of that, in my subsequent three attempts, second, third, fourth, I was able to clear both prelims and mains also. But my mains score, they were not that decent that could guarantee a rank in the final list. So a major mistake, it costed me all these years.
Okay, but you had an interview call in all the next three attempts, right? So
Yes,
you went
yes.
on to clear mains in the next all three attempts actually. So what was your strategy and how did you actually improve um, in the next, say, if you're attempting it next year, what was your strategy to improve above your score and what was the misses? मतलब कितने मार्क्स से आपका मिस हो रहा था फाइनल इंटरव्यू कॉल या क्या गैप्स रह रहे
So
थे आप
in my
कैसे एनालाइज कर रहे थे उन गैप्स को?
Yes. So in my first main, since I did not have any a great idea, so my focus was on completing the paper and try to write decently. So I scored around 756 marks in my first mains, which was decent. But then I fluked in my interview and I missed the final cutoff by 12 marks.
Okay.
And yes, and in my second mains, I thought that I had done very well in my optional subject. So I had scored 270 marks, around 269 marks in my first mains, despite not completing the paper. In fact, I had
Okay.
left around 20, 30 marks. So in the second mains, I thought I will improve it and I will get a rank. And when the results were out, I got only 220 marks. And
Okay.
so 50 marks dip was there, and till date I do not know how did I falter that much there. So because of that, I improved in interview, but I could not make it the second time also. This time, I guess everything it worked fine, so that's why I'm in the list.
Okay. Coming to prelims, because prelims is around the corner, or it has been that part of UPSC जो सबसे ज्यादा bother करता है सबसे ज्यादा aspirants को. तो बट आफ्टर योर फर्स्ट प्रीलिम्स जिसमें आपने काफी नैरो मार्जिन से मिस किया था, यू मेड अ स्ट्रैटेजी क्लियरली दैट हैज वर्कड फॉर यू अक्रॉस द रेस्ट ऑफ द अटेम्प्ट्स. आपका उसके बाद से प्रीलिम्स कभी नहीं रुका, इवन दो क्योंकि आप इंटरव्यू दे रहे होगे तो आपके पास सिर्फ आई थिंक कुछ डेज या कुछ वीक्स का ही टाइम रहता होगा बिफोर अपियरिंग फॉर द नेक्स्ट प्रीलिम्स. तो व्हाट वाज दैट स्ट्रैटेजी, इफ यू कैन टेक अस इन डिटेल की व्हाट इज दैट फेल प्रूफ स्ट्रैटेजी जो हर बार आपका प्रीलिम्स क्लियर करवाता था?
So in my first prelims itself, um, the my friends who were like they were already selected and they helped me a lot. So they were very clear that you should focus on the static portion. As long as your static is strong, you will be able to make it. So even though I had fluked, but it was only by 1 mark, and I think I did not make any major error in the static questions. So I was very much clear that if my static is strong, I will at least be somewhere around the cutoff. And after that comes the basic parts like doing the current affairs and the basically the way you are attempting the question paper. I think that will be sufficient to secure a very good like margin from the cutoff. So in the subsequent attempts, I guess after the static, I focused on these things. How am I
Okay.
attempting and the current affairs part.
Okay, I want to take this a little bit into detail. Static को strong, मतलब we all read static, but how do you ensure कि your static is so strong कि आपके कोई questions जब अगर वो static से pick up हो रहे हैं तो वो गलत नहीं होंगे? What was the strategy? Were you giving any tests after every reading, say for example, what was your revision strategy so as to ensure कि आपका static बहुत strong हो?
I think in this case, the sectional tests they particularly help because if we go sectional wise, they will help us in revising each subject. And even like sometimes what we do is while reading, even now, if I go and read, even the most obvious facts which has been written, it will there is a chance I might miss it. But when I
Yes.
am solving the question, then I will be able to look at it. And if I am making an error, then certainly I should focus on that part. So, because to avoid those errors, we need to do the sectional test, and it will also help us like in better revision of our static portion.
Okay, first was this that you ensured कि static को strong करना है by giving sectional tests as much as possible. Okay, उसके
Yes.
अलावा for current affairs, was there a number of tests जो आपने decide करके रखा था कि I would give this number of tests to ensure कि uh, solid consolidate हो जाए सब current affairs, सब static, या you had that PYQ strategy कि solve as much as PYQs, don't focus as much on tests. What was it a balance of?
I believe it was a basically consolidation of all these things you just mentioned. So PYQs is the most basic thing because they
Right.
help us find out from which portion questions are majorly asked. And even if
Right.
not, sometimes PYQs, they are the options which are there in the PYQs, they sometimes become direct question in the next year prelims question. That is why we need to at least go through the PYQs, even if we are not going very deeper. We just need to have a look there in the PYQ part. And moving beyond that, when we are doing the sectionals, it will be for the like better revision of all those parts. And the current affairs, I think that's the most dicey one. And in my case, I don't like rely much on the current affairs part. I might miss even the most basic current affairs. So I only do the PT 365 and it is if question is from there I will be able to do it. Otherwise I don't rely much on current affairs part.
Okay, because otherwise what happens is in some subjects if UPSC is asking current affairs also वो भी किसी को पता नहीं होता है वो कहाँ से आ रहे हैं.
Yes, that's
तो
the thing.
that is the case. ठीक है, तो relying on statics
Yes.
first of all. और टेस्ट का क्या बताना चाहोगे आप? Was there any strategy कि this is the minimum number of tests that I will attempt, या कोई मार्क्स पे फोकस होता था कि इतने मार्क्स तो आने ही चाहिए तभी जाके you would be feeling secure to attempt that prelims?
So when I if I talk about the test, so basically of any one major coaching, the sectional test it can be attempted from all the sectional test. It can be attempted from that coaching, and in the FLTs we need to do a mixed approach where we are picking out all the major coaching and their FLTs we can do there. So I think basically 25 sectionals and around 15 FLT each. So these 40 question papers, they will be sufficient, I guess.
Okay.
And as far as marks are concerned, I believe since they tend to affect us a lot, even though I have cleared prelims, but if I get low marks in mocks, certainly it demotivates me. So, but the thing is, you should not focus that much on the marks which you are getting in the mocks, because you never know. Maybe the question was so easy, that's why you scored 130, 140, but that might not be the case in the actual exam. And
Yes.
even if someone is getting 50, 60 marks, it might be the case the question paper was very tough. Or so that's why we should not rely on the marks which we are scoring there.
And so the focus should be on improvement and feedback and on analyzing what went wrong and what were the kind of questions that you're getting wrong, rather than looking for the factual number that you're getting at the end of that test, I believe. ओके, कमिंग टू मेंस आकाश, अभी आपने हर
Yes,
बार
yes, ma'am.
मेंस निकाला है, बट कुछ कुछ गैप्स रहे थे आपके मेंस से, जिसकी वजह से आपके जो फाइनल इंटरव्यू कॉल के बाद भी यू weren't एबल टू गेट इनटू दैट फाइनल लिस्ट फॉर सम 2 times बिफोर दिस. तो उसमें उस टाइम पर व्हेन यू फाइंड आउट दैट ओके आई एम इन द इंटरव्यू, आई एम गेटिंग एन इंटरव्यू कॉल ईयर आफ्टर ईयर, बट वो ट्रांसलेट नहीं हो रहा है इनटू अ फाइनल रैंक, वहां से फिर आप कैसे पिकअप करके वर यू एनालाइजिंग, how were you analyzing your mains marks and what were the improvement areas जिन पे आप काम कर रहे थे to find your name in the list this time?
So basically, if we divide the mains in the three major parts, the essay, the GS, and the optional. So in my limited understanding, GS is the one which is the most safe one. So their
Yes,
marks, they don't fluctuate a lot. But in both essay and optional, you never know, the marks will fluctuate. So this is the first time I crossed 400 in the GS part. So that was, I
okay,
think, one of my weakness, because in GS I was lacking there. I was stuck around 380, 390. So, and if you just analyze the score of the top candidates, their score is somewhere around 440, and that is the edge, the basic edge of 40 marks. Even the 40 marks, they will matter a lot when the final list is
definitely, definitely.
consolidated.
आई थिंक जीएस एक फेल प्रूफ
So that,
स्ट्रैटेजी बन गई है अभी के टाइम पे, एंड इफ यू फोकस मोर ऑन द टॉप रैंक्स लाइक यू योरसेल्फ सेड, यू विल फाइंड दैट मोस्ट पीपल रिलाइड ऑन जीएस, उनका जीएस ही सबसे ज्यादा रिवॉर्ड कर रहा है एज अगेंस्ट हाउ वी यूज्ड टू थिंक इन द पास्ट टाइम्स की ऐसे पे फोकस करो, ऑप्शनल पे फोकस करो. ऑप्शनल आई थिंक अभी करंटली आर इन अ डिक्लाइन, सो एज मच एज यू फोकस ऑन योर जीएस दैट विल सेल यू थ्रू, राइट?
yes, that is the most safe option. Yes, because in both essay and the optional part, you never know. I have seen candidates, their marks have dipped by 60 marks in essay, and in my case itself, in optional it dipped by around 50 marks. So these can happen in both these cases, essay and optional, but GS is the safe part there.
ओके, और उसके अलावा लाइक हाउ डिड यू एनालाइज योर परफॉर्मेंस फॉर मेंस? मेंस में लाइक व्हाट वर द पैरामीटर्स? तो आपने शेयर किया कि जीएस बहुत ज्यादा रिलायबल हो गया है, तो यू कैन जस्ट कंटिन्यू फ्रॉम देयर ओनली एंड आई विल जस्ट ट्राई टू ऐड अप, और आई विल आस्क अ क्वेश्चन कि ओके, सो व्हाट इन जीएस were the specific parameters that you were wanting to or looking forward to improve? If you could briefly shed some light
Okay,
upon that.
okay. So in the GS portion, if we are talking about, so in the four GS subjects, if we look at the marks, so particularly the GS2 and GS4, their candidates, they are scoring a lot. Like I have seen people scoring 250 marks in these two papers only.
Yes.
So, and in GS1 and GS3 particularly, GS3, it has got the lowest cost benefit, because the marks, it's not very high there. But in GS1 also, you can easily get till 110.
Yes.
So the focus should be, I think the order of priority should be GS2, 4, and GS1, and the last one should be GS3. So
Right.
in this order, we can try to improve our GS marks.
Okay. And other than that, for essay and optional, you said like your score flunked. So did you make sure that you were not relying very heavily on your optional for these marks, or वही marks आपने फिर try to translate those marks into your GS papers?
Actually, there has been certain correlation between the optional and GS marks also. Like in
Okay.
uh, PSIR optional, often people they score very well in GS2. Unfortunately, I
Yes.
have not been able to score very well there, but it has often been seen that they do. There is a correlation there.
Okay, because the nature of the questions of IR also is getting a little more in depth. So PSIR people naturally get some advantage there,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay. And coming to, like you said, one of the most important papers for mains is ethics.
yes.
Now, what was your strategy for ethics in the previous attempts, and what did you change in this year?
So, in my first attempt, I guess again I thought that if only I complete the paper, I will get decent mark. I will be able to cross the 100 marks. So I did cross, but unfortunately, since it's about competition, so where people are scoring in 130s or 120, I think 100 or 105 these marks, you are at loss there. So I
Yes.
think there I tried to like use even I like in my attempt, second means I used your help also, like using the templates you provided so that I would be able to increase my marks. But I think there, I think I missed 120 marker case study. That's why I could not improve it. Otherwise, I think I had scored around 106. So I think in ethics, these templates and the way we are attempting the case studies and even the code-based question, I think there are three code-based questions. I think they will determine how the marks are fluctuating there.
Okay. लाइक यू सेड फॉर कोड बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस तो आपकी वहां पे स्पेसिफिकली या क्या टेम्पलेट्स थे जो आपने डिसाइड किया कि दीज वुड बी द डिफरेंशिएटिंग थिंग्स जो मुझे बाकी लोगों से शायद स्टैंड आउट करने में हेल्प करेंगी व्हाट वाज योर स्पेसिफिक स्ट्रेटजी फॉर दीज काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस लाइक कोड बेस्ड सम 10 मार्कर्स etc to differentiate from the rest of the crowd.
So I guess I right now I don't remember a lot there, but basically it was based on the code, how exactly you can move forward. Like I think I remember from certain of your templates that it was somewhere around like how do you understand this in the pastel format, which we say political economical message, or in a life cycle approach, like how it can determine the future or how it means in the present or the past. So I think these were the certain templates, and they can be used based on the code, the nature of the code.
ओके जैसे केस स्टडीज में थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट होता है इन टर्म्स ऑफ कि आप अगर एक बेसिक केस स्टडी जैसे दिस ईयर एज वेल देयर वाज केस स्टडी ऑन मनरेगा देयर वर सम बेसिक केस स्टडीज कुछ थीम्स है जो बार बार रेकरेंटली पूछी जाती हैं तो नाउ एवरीवन कैन गिव अ बेसिक आंसर ऑन अ करप्शन बेस्ड केस स्टडी एंड राइट अ बेसिक आंसर देयर कि एथिकल डिलेमास क्या होंगे ऑप्शंस क्या होंगे बट उसमें टू गेट एन एज ओवर मोस्ट ऑफ योर कंपटीशन गेट्स डिफिकल्ट तो उसके लिए व्हाट वर सम ऑफ दीज थिंग्स कि आपने जो डिफरेंट किया बाकी लोगों से इन दिस एथिक्स पेपर दिस ईयर.
So I believe what matters is since the part is how fast you are able to read the case study and how are you going to translate it into the writing. And there, I guess it's about the time game also, how fast you are able to read that. And I guess there, as you mentioned, when you have the ready-made ethical dilemma or the various issues involved in the case or the values which are going to be pointed out, as soon as you are able to pick that from the case given case study, it will help basically because in ethics we always have a time crunch. So having that ready-made set, it always helps in just pointing out all those questions. And as far as the course of action part is concerned, which is one of the major component, there I guess again the templates which are used, so that they always help because more often than not they are basically a fixed set because the themes are they are repeated and they can be used there.
So having a template based answer writing थोड़ा सा आपको हेल्प करता है टाइमली कंप्लीशन में which is one of the biggest issues of why people end up scoring low marks in ethics.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Other than that, ethics में if like what was your note making strategy या क्या आपने यूज किया कोड्स का यूज किया ज्यादा in terms of introduction या कुछ current affair events say you were starting your introductions what was that overall strategy in 10 markers.
So in 10 marker, I would either use the given three formats. So first would be either I would try to define the the basic value which was being asked. Or again, I would try to pick out a current affairs based any data which is related to that subject. And the third is the code part where I can pick a quote on the given topic. So these methods I would use.
Okay. Okay, so I think this brings us to the end of the ethics discussion. Lastly, before closing, Akash, if you want to give some message to people appearing for this exam year after year and flunking at say some stage prelims, mains or interview, तो वो सेल्फ डाउट आपने भी शायद बहुत ज्यादा डील किया होगा उसके साथ में जर्नी में. What is that one message that you would like to give to the audience right now?
So, if I have to give one message, I guess I would say that on the self-doubt part itself, that please don't judge your potential or capability based on the success or failure in this exam. Because even though I also wanted to crack it in my first attempt itself, and I was very, till date, I think that if I had cleared that prelims, I would have cracked it. But then again, I got the chances again in the second, third, and this was my fourth. And I don't have any I cannot say that I'm that confident that if I am going to appear again in the exam, I will be able to crack it. So the amount of luck involved here, I am being an average student, I would say this only that please don't uh, bring this self-doubt thing because luck plays a very important factor here, and I think you should not be hard on yourself thinking that you did not succeed here.
Thank you so much, Akash. I think it is your humility and your groundedness that has gotten you into this list this time. So, irrespective of whether you're getting results or not, if I think this is your story that you shared right now, that shows that if you keep going regardless of the results and keep working on your gaps, I think you can finally find a place in the final list sometime. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.